Hi, everybody. I can't see any of you now, but my name is Sangeeta Walsh. I'm with RingCentral. I'm the VP of Customer and Alliances Marketing, and I'm really happy to be here today with Samara Bay, who's an author of Permission to Speak, so we can talk to you about finding your voice in the age of AI. So again, here's a quick background on who we are, and just want to make sure everyone's comfortable. It took us quite the journey to get here. Samara and I decided to walk from the main hotel, I guess, which is at...
Did anybody else walk from the
Did anyone else
Venetian?
walk? Because that was a real adventure.
Yes, oh, look at that. A few other brave souls. Yeah.
Yeah, so with the F1 layout, you cannot cross certain streets. So we decided instead of going around and taking the longer route where you go up the escalator, down the escalator, et cetera, we would just walk on the street. Unbeknownst, there's no sidewalk, there's cars coming, so we did have to jump a fence on the walk here. And then as we jumped the fence, we continued our path, and then we would get stopped by a variety of different characters that wanted to take photos with us. And then as we continued on our path and we saw the lights of the MGM, we come in and there's nobody here. There's no feather to tell you where to go. And we're like, oh wow, we're gonna speak to 3 people today. It's gonna be great that we made it out here and 3 people are gonna talk to us. And yeah, it was quite the journey. So needless to say, we were really determined to get here and really excited to talk to all of you and to have something that's probably a little less traditional than what you're hearing at all of the other AWS breakouts, simply because Samara is not in tech and I am in tech. So we're gonna talk about how do you humanize a lot of the conversations you're hearing today, especially around AI. So before we go into that, let me tell you a little bit about who the company is that I work for and what we do. So for how many of you out there, again, can't see all of you, but how many of you out there have
There are more than 5.
Yeah, there are more than 5, so we're excited.
Note.
Jumping that fence today was well worth it. So how many of you have heard of RingCentral? You can raise your... All right. Okay, good. More than what I can count on one hand. So for those of you that are not familiar with RingCentral, RingCentral is a leader in trusted AI business communications. Again, very tech speak, but to bring it out to everyday terms, you have a business, you have an organization, you don't want to communicate necessarily with your personal number. You do want to manage all your contact center communications. You do want to have a place where you can store chat, pin content, and you want to be able to provide a scalable solution that could grow as your potential business or groups grow. And so RingCentral, which is an open platform per se and communications tool, will provide the ability to connect to a variety of different ways to unify communication. So we help our sales team increase win rates with AI. We also help them increase win rates by having integrations into system of records like Salesforce. We also provide technology solutions for call center agents. So how many of you will call, let's say, United for a question and they say, press 1 to talk to an agent, press 2 to confirm your flight. We provide that type of IVR technology. And then we also provide insights with our open platform into other tools you use like Salesforce, Zendesk, Okta, et cetera. So RingCentral, Silicon-based company, started many years ago out of Belmont, California, has grown into a company that's global across, EMEA, Asia, and over 5,000 employees. And we have been a Gartner Magic Quadrant leader for many years. And our core tenets is that we are a trusted, innovative, partnered type of communication system. So I highly encourage all of you to visit our booth and learn more or talk with me after today's session, and I can tell you a little bit more about RingCentral. We're booth number 1964, all the way in the other land that I came from, called the MGM. Or no, I'm in the MGM, wherever I came from. Venice, a Venetian. So I came from Venice, yes. I walked through many countries to get here, yeah. On a side note, as we walked here, I was like, wow, we walked through Paris, we went through New York, we ended up where we felt like back in California with the palm trees, so. Anyways, as I mentioned, we're a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant. Many of you are familiar with that, and this is our 10th year in a row where we've been highlighted as a leader. We're really proud of that. So we know we're doing something right, and we're really excited to continue to build upon the platform, the services, the software that we have. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Samara. She's going to kick it off and kind of go a little less tech and talk about, your voice, which is what RingCentral was founded on, is your voice technology, voice communication. And tomorrow we'll talk about how does your voice matter?
Well, and also our voices when the tech gets plugged back in at the end of the day and we get unplugged from it, right? What I'd actually love to do, I know your initial reaction is gonna be negative and then you're gonna thank me. Would you mind, with all of your stuff, getting up and moving into more of like a smaller group here so that we can feel like we're actually humans in a space together? I really appreciate it. Thank you, thank you. Thank you for your body movement. Thank you for your bravery. I know, it's so annoying, and I've totally been in the audience rolling my eyes at these types of questions, but really, I think it helps for us to feel like we're a part of a community, yeah? In fact, I like to sometimes start by inviting everybody into a third space. Have you heard this term, a third space? Ooh. It comes from social science, and the idea is that we behave a certain way at home, and we're like familiar with home us within various, there's a range. And then we know work us, and we behave a certain way at work, and we know work us. And then there are the third spaces, which is honestly the type of places that shut down during the pandemic, and that we all felt more grief than we realized. It's bars and restaurants, et cetera. Conferences with no windows, right? Rooms like this, where obviously we can just sort of like energy-wise, or we can think of them as third spaces have always been, as the places where revolutions begin, where like-minded folks talk about what isn't working and what might work better. So that is the spirit that I would like to inspire in here, and I see those of you who didn't come into the middle area, and I'm just keeping my eye on you, that's all. I'm going to, is this the right direction?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're talking about your actual voice rather than all the ways that AI can make voices sound nearly natural these days. That is fascinating and impressive, somewhat terrifying, really exciting, and a conversation for right outside these rooms, because we often forget to talk about the real voices that those AIs are trying to replace, and how all of us at the end of the day, when we plug in those devices, still have bodies. And those bodies are what these voices come out of. And that ends up mattering because trust matters. And trust is the only thing that our voice can, I'm doing this in the wrong order, hold on, I'm gonna go here. What can your voice do better than any technology on earth? Does any thought come to you? Convey expression. Anything else? Yeah, I mean, that was a leading question for sure. But also, I am curious if anything does come up for anybody here, because I think it's useful as we explore AI to hold on to what isn't, Emotion, yeah. Anybody else? Yeah, they say that there's, the same way that we have fingerprints, we have voice, and we can hear, we know when we are hearing somebody's voice that we recognize. That's interesting, right? I mean, the thing about AI is that it hasn't had a lived experience, and our bodies all have. We all grew up somewhere, and then we left. And now we're here. So I'm gonna go back real fast, and actually, while I'm on this page, if everybody wouldn't mind standing up for a moment. You're like, I'm not gonna have to move again. Now you're just gonna actually have a body in space. Would you please stand up? You don't have to do anything you don't wanna do, but I encourage you to stand up and invite your body into this space. Let's maybe just get like a little like wiggle. Find a little part of your body that wants to just shake a little bit, knowing that everyone else in the room is also doing it. Come on, this is so good, thank you. What a great, first row person. Yeah, a little wiggle. Did you remember that you have hips? Most of us end up forgetting this, especially at tech conferences, unless it's after hours.
Unless you're climbing a fence like we did on our walk.
Right, totally. So literally, notice your hips, feel them move in some direction they haven't moved yet today. Maybe also your spine. Oh, we can right? Who does this before you ever talk publicly? A little warm up, right? If you do you think it might be a competitive advantage? The thing is that we like to forget that we have bodies and just go from here up, and especially at conferences when it's all about trying to either take in a bunch of information or output, right? And yet here we are with bodies. Wiggle again. Do a little shimmy. This is the part that happens with the shoulders. Men have perhaps never been asked to shimmy before until being in this room. Hello, this is your shimmy. There you go. Thank you for all of your bravery. And now let me just ask a few questions just to get to know you a little bit better, but also to make a point. I would love to know who here is a parent. Hi, I see you. Who here considers yourself an introvert? Who is an engineer? Who's a marketing person or a comms person? Who thinks of yourself as being good at public speaking? Who hates public speaking? Who hates the idea of being seen and heard? For whom is English your second language? Who currently lives really far from what you used to call home? Whose parents immigrated? Who is living out your parents' wildest dreams? Who is like really gone off in a different direction than that? Who sometimes feels a little bit like an outsider? Yeah. Whose bodies are feeling things now that I've asked all those questions? Thank you. You're welcome to sit down. I'm the author of this book. And I wrote this article for Time if you want sort of an entry point into the book, and there is going to be this lovely book signing happening later on the main floor. But the reason I show you this is less about me and more about you and the folks that I work with. You know, I put up all those lovely logos. And the reason I did that is I have made a discovery, which is that I have this background as a dialect coach in Hollywood. I told a lot of actors how to do accents, either foreigners to sound American or Americans to do a specific accent for a specific role, or as I like to put it, I have told a lot of movie stars what to do with their tongues, which is accurate, but it was never the full story. Creating a space to work on sounds coming out of their mouth inevitably led to all kinds of insecurities for some of what we might call the world's most successful, beautiful, etc. people. And that was intriguing. And then I started working with, as you can see, people in tech and people in the entertainment industry who aren't on stage, and politics, universities, scientists. And it became clear that voice is weird for basically everybody, and everybody thinks it's just them. The last time I was in Vegas, I was telling Sangeeta, was pre-pandemic. I had been working a little bit with Ricky Martin, and he had a residency here, and he invited a few of us out, and we got to see him on stage. And his on-stage rock star persona versus the guy who hired me to help him with an award show speech where he was giving a lifetime achievement to somebody he truly admired were night and day. That persona, he knows how to perform that. But being a human at scale, as yourself, talking about what matters, this brings up stuff for everybody. So I'd love you to each think of a line that you say frequently. Maybe it's a tagline for a product, maybe it's a mission statement, maybe it's even just your name. Hi, my name is blah, 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 and my job title is blah, blah, blah. Extra credit, what I love to do these days is, or what I love about my job is. Initially, I thought about having everybody pair up, but I actually think I'm okay. I feel like this group is already like, oh, don't make me talk to other people. So I'd love you to just think about it for yourself. Yes? Does everybody have one in mind? Do you want to pair up? I'm seeing some interest. Okay, then yes. Thank you so much. Yes. Find somebody near you. This is also why it helps to be closer. I don't know if you knew that this was going to be a workshop, but you are going to learn something by the end of it, and it's going to be helpful. You can be in groups of 3 as well. Does everybody have a sentence? Do you have something that you say frequently? Even if it's just your name and who you are, what you do, anything like that? If not, by the way, this is useful. So the other thing that we're talking about here without talking about it is branding. Right? And we all know that there's some responsibility / opportunity to personally brand ourselves. And personal branding does not have to be some, I don't know, thing that feels disconnected from ourselves. It's literally just what we care about and then talking about it like we care about it. Someone is not interested in caring out loud. Okay, so I'm gonna, I get the vibe that quietly, and I saw that there were a lot of introverts here, but quietly you are available for doing a bit of an exercise. So I'm going to encourage that. Let's pair up in groups of 2. A third person is completely welcome. But pair up in groups of 2 or 3 based on how you're sitting. And each of you just try out a line. Start with one of you, and the other 2 people, what's your job? To be such a good listener. And what is a good listener? You're like sending out heart love, okay? We need more of this in our lives. Okay, so pair up for just a moment, and let's try this. Yes, look at this. It's already happening. If you'd like to step further back, maybe there's somebody over there. Okay, good. Join up. So try out your first line on somebody.
Uh-oh, we lost another.
Oh my God, this is so... If you are struggling for a line, I love that you're chatting. This is also a secondary benefit. But do say, my name is, and I. If you haven't switched to the second person, you can switch to the second person now. Hi, guys. Have all of you said a line? Do you have something? Yeah? Yeah, sure. Copy that. It's sweet. Okay. Hello, welcome back. How did that feel? Like literally though, was it sort of like, nice to meet the other person, this is not about them, but how did it feel the part where you were saying your thing? Connected. Love that. Anyone else? Silly. Thank you so much. Correct answer. By the way, silliness is really useful in third spaces, right? This is where we start to get a little outside the box. Okay, I'm going to offer some really practical stuff on how to make something as simple as that, but also, of course, applicable elsewhere and on stages, feel better. Yeah? 3 principles. The first one is breath. So we didn't talk about breath when we were wiggling, but it was starting to happen anyway. For many, many people, when you say, take a deep breath, people go like this. You see the shoulders, right? They did a little thing. This is associated with panic. The problem is many of us, although obviously we breathe enough to stay alive, aren't actually breathing in a way that makes our prefrontal cortex happy, that makes our nervous system happy. Deep breathing does not have to happen only when you're meditating and completely, trying to have no outside stimulus. There is something about breathing from down here that ignites all of your body's actual wisdom. And it's habituated out of us for all kinds of reasons that have to do with the identities that you very, very graciously shared with me earlier. So once we left home, and even sometimes for us at home when we were little, when a lot of these habits were formed, once we left home, we ended up in rooms where we had to learn how to seem likable, seem unintimidating, seem tough, seem low maintenance, seem charming, seem authoritative. And we've all picked up all kinds of habits, and it starts with breath. Because if we hold in our breath, we are bracing for anything, which is great for keeping ourselves safe, and crappy for the other parts, the power and the permission that I name here, which is really where we have a sense of freedom. For me, the concept of permission is like a full body feeling of freedom, which is associated with power, as you can imagine, right? Of course, there's power over, there's that kind of hierarchical power, but there's also power too, which is like our innate sense of agency as we walk through the world. And breath is, of the 3 principles, a pretty foundational starting point. If you habitually underbreathe, these are the types of things that happen. We are probably all guilty of this, so no shame at all. But interesting to notice for you, for your friends, for your children, one of the things we can do, as I say here, is going soft or quiet when we're uncomfortable. So sometimes this means literally, people who end up being the quietest person in the space. But also it can be talking anyway, but kind of talking like this. So you're sort of like, I'm here, but like I'm not really here, and people are like, sorry, what? And you're like, oh, well, because I said something, but then I can also take it back, right? Sounding disembodied or generic. There's frankly, a conference speak, which we're playing against, of like, good morning, everybody. It's so nice to see everybody. I hope you got some coffee outside. And it's like, ooh, I'm almost here, but I'm not quite. In fact, a robot could have done that. There's the throat clamping up and straining when you speak. So this is sometimes called vocal fry, but also it's just like this, it's this thing, where we're using these muscles, these amazing muscles that are not supposed to be part of speaking at all, to keep ourselves from, as I lovingly put it, getting in trouble. So boy, we've learned our whole life. If I have a thought and then I breathe the right amount for the thought to come out and just like say whatever I'm thinking, I'm gonna get in trouble. On some level, however you would define that for yourself, right? Whatever trouble means, or meant when you were little, and then it became a habit. And so we've learned how to use these muscles that are meant for like lifting heavy things to shut down our vocal cords and to like sound like this. And we can hear this in other people, and we can sometimes hear it in ourselves. And it is, as you can imagine, with all of these, an incredible risk management tool. But what we're talking about is what we do when we're trying to not just risk manage, but actually connect. The next one, sounding nice when all eyes are on you, higher pitched, customer service voice, or cool. This is somewhat gendered. And obviously, if it doesn't suit you, fabulous. But in general, when women are uncomfortable, we tend to go to nice, which has a higher pitched sound and sounds like customer service voice. I call it Starbucks voice. Yeah, absolutely, everything's fine. I'm so sorry, the Splenda's out, right? And then we can accidentally bring that into important meetings where we're trying to pitch our ideas, and we go, yeah, I just had like a little thought, right? Because it works at Starbucks, but it doesn't work as well in that space. And then men do tend, thrilled when this is not the case, tend to go down into a similarly sort of single pitch range. It's like, yeah, totally, absolutely, no, it's cool, dude, it's cool, right? He's laughing because he's familiar with it. I also sometimes call this superhero voice because it's very Batman. Vocal fry, upspeak, apology, hedging. Have you guys heard of these? They are linguistic terms for all kinds of little tics and habits that many of us have picked up in order to sound indirect. So instead of saying, you're not doing a good job, we'll say, hey, I just wanted to talk to you about the sort of job that you're doing and consider some other ways that we could perhaps apply the things we've been talking about. Would that work for you? Right, so we're super indirect, and that's called polite in American culture. And sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it's so wiggly that people don't actually understand what we're saying. Monotone, pressing down on your throat so you don't come across as too enthusiastic when you'd rather seem detached. So does everybody know, right, this is like monotone thing where you're like, yeah, so what I was gonna talk about in this meeting was. And the problem with this, if any of you have been in meetings like this, is that if one person does that, then everybody starts to think that that's the norm for the meeting. And we, as I also lovingly put, outboring each other. Oh, so you're talking like that, so now I should talk like that too. And then this is what happens. So if you're in one of those meetings, even if you're not the highest level person in that meeting, it is often a kind act for everybody there to get out of monotone and just to talk like a person. I mean, the way Sangeeta started this, right? There's something arresting about going, hi, anyway, so what we're gonna talk about today, yeah? And even if you're breaking the norm of that space, it's subtle enough that no one quite knows what you're doing. They're just like, oh, she's a real person, he's a real person. Practice pitch shifts to approximate natural human speech. This is more like newscaster, but sometimes when we get on a stage, especially if it's not something that you do regularly, we can accidentally think that we have to sound a little bit like Ryan Seacrest. This is an older-fashioned approach to public speaking, and it comes from, I think, a well-intentioned but sort of bad faith deal with the audience that you're not interesting enough as you are. You must create a sense of interesting, and it breaks trust when what you're really trying to do is build it. Lowering pitch to sound more authoritative. Does anybody have experience with this? I see your hands up on the inside, even if they're not on the outside. I have a origin story that sort of started my book, but 20 years earlier without realizing that's what I was doing because I lost my voice from habitual under pitching. So going a little bit too low compared to my body's term I learned, optimum pitch. And it was the kind of habit that was fine until it wasn't, until I was speaking enough that it started to catch up to me. But many, many people across many different industries, and especially women, but not just women, are often told if you want to sound authoritative, you have to keep your pitch of your voice low. And then it leads to people trying to create this sense of artificial gravitas that has nothing to do with the content of what you're saying. So the first one was breath, and breath is deeply connected to all of those. The second one is care. This was also mentioned. The idea of authenticity, right? I mean, sounding like a person instead of a robot is ultimately about authenticity, but this word gets so overused that it sort of loses all meaning and no one knows how to define it anymore except for like a feeling of truthiness. So I have a definition, a practical definition because I'm a coach, so practical matters, which is talking about what you care about like you care about it. Most of us have lifelong practice talking about what we care about but sounding like we don't. So we can say, this is my big new idea, but we can say it like, this is my big new idea. Or we have the opposite, right? And we go into that customer service thing, this is my big new idea, and it's so pushy that it's also a form of hiding. And so the question for all of us is how to find the sweet spot in the middle. What does it sound like for any of us in any of the realms of our life when we say, this is what matters to me, and we're allowing people to see that it really does? And what does seeing that it really does mean? Well, we do have a little bit more emotion. And there's a massive cultural pathologizing of emotion into being emotional. So I'd love to suggest that there's like over-emotional over here where it's really unprocessed. And then there's just having emotions, which all animals do. And here we are as animals with bodies that have emotions. I have a line from my book where I said, our natural speech could be as flat as a robot's if all we needed to convey was language. And if that were true, we probably wouldn't have evolved the stunning anatomical apparatus that is our vocal cords. But we have. And our ears have evolved to hear the emotions in others' voices and feel roused by them. It's an ancient dance our bodies were built for. If we don't reveal our emotional connection to what we're talking about, we literally won't connect. Again, it's a great risk management tool to decide that you're going to show up and no one will know quite how you feel about something, how enthusiastic, how angry, but it's terrible for connection. In fact, my third and final one is purpose, and I don't even mean this massively, like life purpose. I mean the actual purpose of saying anything that you're saying. And the first question is, are you speaking to connect or to protect? This is such a useful metaphor from nervous system work, but our nervous systems are either working to give us a sense of protection or a sense of connection, but we can't do both at the same time. So if we're saying something like, hi, my name is Samara, I help magnificent people show up magnificently in the moments that matter. I'm not saying it for me, I'm saying it for you, and I have to make sure that I do that work, that I'm actually doing it, that I'm bringing in a sense of breath, right? I'm breathing so that I'm making sure that my actual body is actually bringing all of the lived experience and wisdom that I've brought to this moment today, that I'm caring, that I make it clear that this is something that really matters to me, and a sense of purpose. Who am I talking to? Is this useful for you? If it's not useful for you, I can talk about something else. So I'd love you to pair up with your person one more time and see if you can bring in a sense of breath, caring, and purpose, and just say, if nothing else, do a little tweak and say your line again, but say it for them. Find a reason that it's actually for them. And if it's not for them, it can be as well. But if it's not for them, also think about who else in your life. This is next level. But have you guys seen, you've likely seen that there's a lot of data that basically says that if you're negotiating or advocating on behalf of someone else, male or female, you're much more likely to get it than if you're advocating on behalf of yourself, especially female. If that's the case, then we can apply that all kinds of places, including talking about ourselves, right? I help these types of people do this. It's not for me, right? I have to bring in actively who I am helping when I'm talking to the person who I also am hoping to connect with. Okay, so try that. Find your people again and give them your line. And you can change up the line, but I'd love you to have a line by the end of this that you like saying. fucking audience. Okay. I love this so much. It reminds me of, I'm working with somebody now who, I'm going to keep it as classy and generic as possible, but who's raising a heck of a lot of money. And part of his job is to set up the main person. And when I started working with him, he said, my job is basically housekeeping. Which you get, right? Oh, I'm just here to introduce people, and then I'm going to hand it over to the... And what a missed opportunity when you have people who are perhaps are going to be putting money... Hey, guys. Hi. You have lost your permission to speak. You can have it again in just a few minutes. Is that okay? But with consent. So, part of what I unearthed with him, right, was this sense that my job is just to sort of like roll out the red carpet. Blah, 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 blah. Any of us can do that. It comes from a beautiful place of humility. And it is a missed opportunity for connection. Right? If this guy is going to speak to a whole room full of people who then in smaller conversations may give many millions of dollars, then he could start that off by saying, I'm so honored to get to speak to all of you today. You're here because you care about this topic. We all care about it together. I see you. And then they feel welcome. And then the entire room has been elevated to something that feels, dare I say, sacred or spiritual, right? With just a tiny, tiny adjustment of posture. Because, Ian, what you were describing was a posture, right? It's like, so sorry, right? But there is something about this kind of posture, and also the posture of I'm not apologizing because I'm offering it to you, even if what I'm talking about is me, that creates moments of connection, which is the only reason that we're, like, alive, right? Not to be over dramatic. Anybody else notice anything else? Does anybody else want to leap off of that and ask any question or sort of, anything in the realm of what we just talked about? Any observation?
I mean, isn't it like once you break that first barrier, stuff kind of, it's just not, it's not there. That's the person you can act more normal.
Once you've broken the first barrier, it's not there anymore. It's a beautiful line. Yeah. So then the question is how? And obviously it's different in every scenario. But there is a lot of wisdom and science to suggest that when you reveal a bit of vulnerability, it invites other people to be vulnerable. And the only way you can truly know somebody is to have comfort, some level of comfort with your vulnerability and with theirs. And then connection is made, and then trust is made. And trust is the most valuable currency on earth. So, yeah, and if breathing and caring out loud in this little way where you're like, hey, the thing I'm talking about actually matters to me and you can see it, if that's what it takes, it's actually a really light lift. It's just that it requires a bit of practice. And, for the people who left this room, it requires a bit of discomfort before a new kind of comfort emerges. So with that, my final thought is don't forget your body. And I'm going to hand it back to Sangeeta, and I think we're going to do some kind of a Q&A if there's further conversation to be had.
I loved everything Samara talked about. So just a little bit of background. I'm in tech. Samara her craft is communication, obviously, coaching, so many things that I'm very envious of. When I first started off my career, there were a lot of nervousness that I had, not only as a woman in tech, a woman with a difficult name to pronounce. My maiden last name is Nagaraja. So Sangeeta Nagaraja, if you're Indian, that's the proper way to say it, Sangeeta. So just getting up there, being able to communicate myself and having my name be properly pronounced, not Sangeeta, Sangria. Having people understand what I'm saying and not feeling nervous in itself is very difficult. And to also have the audience feel like they trust me. There's always a level of what am I doing wrong if somebody gets up, leaves, if somebody seems confused, is staring at their phone. You always wonder, what am I doing wrong to make them not pay attention? So one of the things that I was trying to link when we were discussing this was let's all be comfortable with ourselves. Let's have the trust in how we communicate and how we want to present ourselves. Our voice is our brand. And the way that I was looking at it from a RingCentral perspective is we are a well-known brand to the tech world, but we aren't necessarily a well-known brand to the everyday person. So what we can talk about is, those proof points of we have trust in people with big logos like Accenture or Whirlpool, companies that people are aware of, the Golden State Warriors that use us. We have this level of trust and what people feel that we can perform, but how do we bring who they are out? And so voice continues to remain king. We are that king in voice, as I talked about with Gartner Magic Quadrant, but voice is only as good as what the technology is behind it that's going to manipulate your voice. We're not talking about manipulation with what Samara said, but we're talking about being very succinct and being very powerful in what you say. This is where you hand it off to a technology company, which is why we're all here. Many of us are developers or we work in some adjacent tech role. We want to talk about how we can take that human component and turn it into something that you can leverage in so many different ways so it's scalable, so it can help sell faster, so it can help close deals. It is the richest data and it's the richest asset you have. And so what we as a company want to do is to take organizations and help them harness their voice, their human touch, and make it work for them, whether it's to sell more, whether it's to close more deals, whether it's to just provide insights. We have different ways to do that. And so a lot of people with that voice in mind, take 81%, as the survey says, are looking to use different types of AI tools to adopt to analyze voice data. So how many of you probably leverage AI now without, anything through work? You leverage it now. How many? Okay, I see a palm full of hands up. All right, great. Every day, if you're using an iPhone, you're leveraging some level of AI. Think about when somebody leaves you a voicemail and you're going to look at that voicemail. You're not necessarily listening to that voicemail, you're reading the voicemail script. In fact, I had given a story yesterday about how my mom, who English is not her first language, will leave me a voicemail. And when I read it, it sounds like, hey, Sangeeta, and it always mispronounces my name or misspells my name. Can you please give me a call? I have something I have to ask you. All right, I don't think it seems urgent, but then when I actually listen to the voicemail, she sounds very urgent about it. So there's ways that we can build upon that and make things better, and that's what RingCentral is doing. We're innovating in that technology. We're going to be able to provide sentiment, not only for call centers, but just for everyday voice. We're going to be able to provide summaries too. Right now in our current product, we have the ability to take any sort of chat message and it'll give you a summary. Even if it's like 50, 60 chats that you've missed, you can hit a button and your chat will be summarized on, sentiment, what has been said, and what's important, just based upon their digital voice, not even necessarily their physical voice. So we have a lot of conversation intelligence that we're building upon from that human touch. RingSense is what is behind our AI, and we will be able to figure out why is somebody calling me. So if, for instance, Samara is to give me a call, I'm going to find out, is she happy? Is she angry? Hopefully we'll get better insights. And then actually when my call is being analyzed, there is an ability with RingCentral. Why is somebody calling me? What are my top performers on the team that are actually leveraging their voice the proper way? Are they employees that need to be coached? All these things that we're looking to digitize and commercialize, so to speak, but that all foundation comes from that human voice. And so essentially the conversation intelligence that we have with a variety of different products, we are basically voice on steroids or AI on steroids. We've had a lot of customers tell us that they feel that the insights that we're able to provide them gives them more time. It helps them speak better. It helps them coach their teams. It actually helps people learn. There's a lot of things that I'll find out from call summaries that, wow, I'm talking way too much about a subject. That's actually not what the description is of this meeting. And I'm continuously going on and on about something that has nothing to do with this meeting. So it really changes the way that I present myself and my brand to my fellow employees. So one of the things, as I go back to who our company is and what we're doing is we're really working on verticals. It's very different if you're in financial services to healthcare to retail. So we are really looking to transform the way that we allow people to present themselves digitally through their voice. In financial services, you can dissect opportunities, you can ensure compliance. Compliance is huge, and then you're able to pinpoint areas that you can work out. We do that in different types of bundles across our products. And we basically, as we said, harness the different organizations and what they need for their unique pieces. We're private by design. That's always a big concern. We have 5.9 uptime, so we're very secure. We are safe. We have our own data centers, so there is a lot of trust, as we talked about earlier. And basically, we are a trusted communications platform. Like I said, you can meet Samara at our booth. You can get a signed copy of her book. And then you can learn more about RingCentral holistically, which we have the best-in-class collaboration suite from a contact center to digital engagement. So if you do not want to call a help center, you can do it through all sorts of social media techniques, Facebook, Twitter, et cetera. Sorry, Facebook X, et cetera. Also hybrid event solutions. So if you want to do an event remotely, we harness the way that you would communicate and host virtual events as well. So it's really important for us to be able to take all the different ways you communicate, whether it's digitally, whether it's through your voice, and we want to personalize that, and we want to leverage it so it can be scaled, it can be used for your business, it can help you grow, and it also can help you evolve on how you continue to work. So with that being said, I want to thank all of you for joining. Please visit our booth. We're over at the Venetian, Venice, as I say, 1964, and then I'm going to open this for any Q&A. Thank you so much for attending. We hope you enjoyed it, and to see you at our booth.